Hi, everyone. Welcome to Humane Voices, the official podcast of the Humane Society of the United States. Carrie and Austin here talking about one of the largest and most diverse animal sanctuaries in the nation. Carrie, again, very, very excited to speak with our special guests today. We have a lot of fun stuff planned.
Me too. I can't wait to hear about how the animals are doing down there. I know that there's been challenges during this period. I mean, you know, all of us are just sort of locked up at home in our home offices, but Noelle and her team are actually out there in the field all the time caring for the animals directly. And so I can't wait to hear more about that. So
Absolutely.
On with the show.
Let's do it. Before we get to our special guest, we wanted to do a quick plug. We miss hearing messages from you on the podcast. We started hearing them and then they dropped off a little bit. So we really want to hear any reactions, questions you have about the show. Please message us at podcast@humanesociety.org for any topics that you want to hear for future episodes, or that you just like the fun banter or awkward jokes that we always say at the top
or
of the show.
Austin's desperation.
Exactly. I'm really trying here, guys.
Palpable desperation.
So please message us. I need somebody to talk to. Anyway, so now on to the show. Today, our very special guest is Noelle Almrud, the director of the Cleveland Amory Black Beauty Ranch. Noelle, thank you so much for sitting down to chat with us. We are so excited to talk with you today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
So to start us off, Noelle, can you tell us a little bit about Cleveland Amory Black Beauty Ranch and the work that you and your team accomplished to in and around the sanctuary?
Absolutely. So just a little bit about us. We are located in Murchison, Texas, about an hour and a half southeast of Dallas, Texas. We were founded in 1979 by Cleveland Amory, an author and animal advocate. He had founded our parent organization, the Fund for Animals, back in the 60s. And then in 2005, we became an affiliate of the Humane Society of the United States. We started off on 80 acres and now have grown to being on over 1,400 acres with almost 800 animals and over 40 different species. So we have a little bit of everybody, and I always say we're kind of like a zoo, but we're not open to the public on a regular basis, and it's all about protecting the animals that are here.
With that many different kinds of animals and that many different species, like how many different enclosures do you have to have in order to sort of protect them and keep them separated appropriately?
That's a great question, and it's so funny because sometimes when I tell people what we are and what we do, they just think that we have animals just roaming all over the property.
Right.
And then when I tell them we have tigers and horses, they're like,
how does that work?
Get the horses. No, we have specialized habitats and pastures for the various animals. For example, we have over 400 equine horses and donkeys, and we have a main herd that roams on about 1,000 of our acres, and they get the freedom to just roam wherever they want. As animals increase in age, or if they have physical limitations, then we put them in smaller paddocks or pastures to help them get around better so they don't have to compete for food as much, and those sort of things. And then they get specialized geriatric and medical care. What we're focusing on now is expanding our habitats for our large carnivores and our non-human primates to give them large, spacious, naturally wooded enclosures that would mimic their native environments as much as possible.
Well, that's great. So which large carnivores do you have there? I mean, you mentioned tigers, but what else? Or who else,
we have
I
tigers,
should say.
And I lump the black bears. They're technically omnivores, but we do have several black bear as well. And so they are in a minimum of a half acre to an acre in size.
That's great.
Their habitat.
So, Noelle, you mentioned it a little bit, but can you talk about the difference between a zoo and a sanctuary and why Black Beauty Ranch is considered a sanctuary?
Absolutely. The number one difference between a sanctuary and a zoo is the sanctuary does not breed. We are taking in animals from all over the country that nobody else wanted, that probably would have been euthanized or killed if we hadn't stepped in to take them. There's so many animals out there that need reputable sanctuaries that it's not in our best interest to perpetuate that cycle. So all of our animals are altered so that they cannot breed. And we're still turning down requests all the time because we don't have space for all these animals. Another difference is we focus our animal care on doing what's in the animal's best interest. Like I said, we're not open to the public on a regular basis. We do have occasional pre-scheduled private guided tours to educate the public on why these animals are here. Obviously, that's all shut down because of COVID right now. But we design our habitats based on what the animals need, not on what's going to look the best for somebody coming in. And so the animals are never forced to be on display. They always have spaces to hide, get away from our staff, even if they don't want to be around our staff. And it's all about the animals and what they need.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that some of these animals would have really been facing some terrible consequences without the ranch there to help. I mean, what kind of situations do these animals come from? I mean, is it mixed depending on who they are and what kind of species?
It really does. I mean, predominantly we're working with law enforcement locally and nationally for animals that have been seized for cruelty and neglect, for hoarding, for various numerous issues. And so they reach out to us and ask us to take them. We work with biomedical research facilities for animals, primates, when they're being retired. We will take them in and provide a home for them. We network with other reputable sanctuaries. We work with other zoos and try to find the best space for the animal. And if we can't take them, we try to refer them to somebody else that can, that's reputable and has the same type of values and structure that we do.
Ever since COVID has happened, Noelle, how has your team's work changed?
Well, I mean, obviously we have to come to work every day. You know, the
Yeah.
animals need to be fed, they need to be cared for. We have a staff of about 25 people, including our animal care staff. We have a full-time veterinarian and vet tech. We have facilities workers that help us with the maintenance. So the work has to be done every day. So you have to structure your safety and PPE requirements based on what the staff have to do. And so we've increased our safety protocols. You know, nobody can come to work if they're sick. It's a lot of the same protocols that you'll see in other industries. And we just have increased our PPE wear. We limit the people that can come around the animals. We're not having any visitors. We've limited our volunteer program, unfortunately, and we just have our core staff here on site right now.
And that's to protect both the people and the animals, right? Because there are some cases of COVID sort of transferring species now, I think, right?
Absolutely. Non-human primates can get COVID, and it's even been shown that we've had big cats, not here at the sanctuary, but at other zoos and facilities that have tested positive for COVID. So, you know, we limit the amount of people that can go around those animals as well. And we always have strict safety protocols. We never go in with those animals. We don't pet them or touch them or anything like that. But now we're being extra cautious, you know, masks, gowns, gloves, and just, you know, the key personnel that can be around those animals right now. Many of our animals are geriatric. Our primates are in their 30s, and that's old for macaques especially. And so, you know, you hear about how the elderly human population has to be careful about contracting this virus. So we're equally concerned about our elderly animal population as well, too.
Because these animals are here for life, right? Once they're around the
Absolutely.
sanctuary. Okay.
They never go anywhere once they're here. That's our mission, is to provide them lifelong sanctuary, give them whatever they need for as long as they have. Sometimes it's a matter of 5 or 10 years if they come to us elderly, sometimes 50 or 60 when you consider we have tortoises that may live to 100. You know, we're going to provide that care for them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I'm really glad that came up, because I think sometimes, you know, one of the things that I see people who don't kind of aren't fully engaged on sanctuary work is asking, like, why can't you take all the animals? And I think that part of the reason is because if you're going to be providing really top level care for them, you're talking about decades of care.
Absolutely. I always say that, because people will ask me, well, how do you turn down those animals? How do you sleep at night knowing that that animal may get euthanized because you can't care for them? And I have to tell people, my ultimate responsibility is to the care for the animals that are here. If I take in every animal that needs to be rescued, I'm diminishing the level of care for the ones that are already here. And it sounds kind of cheesy, but I'm breaking my promise to them, because they have a right to live their lives without 50 others crammed into their enclosure. And unfortunately, there are some facilities out there, which I'm sure they have the best, they want to do the best, but by taking in too many animals, they're not going to be able to care for them properly, and they're not going to be able to financially sustain that operation long term. And then, we've seen it in the news. We've had facilities that are shutting down, especially during COVID, because they can't afford it. And so now everybody else has to absorb those animals as well.
Yeah, that's such a challenge. It's such a hard thing to balance, I think, between, bringing in more and making sure that the ones that you have are really getting top level care. I think that's an issue across, multiple, not just the sanctuary issue, but the animal sheltering industry as well, is sort of balancing those issues between providing top care versus numbers that you're helping.
Well, speaking of the animals that are in the sanctuary, our producer let us know that there was a fun element that you had in store for us. Wouldn't really share exactly what it was. So can we talk a little bit about what you have prepared, Noelle?
Yeah, absolutely. I have some recordings of some of the animals at Black Beauty, and I'm not going to tell you who they are. Okay. We have over 40 different species, and some of them may be pretty obvious, but I bet a couple of them are going to stump you. So I'll play a recording, and then you guys have to tell me what species of animal it is.
Awesome. I love it.
Ready for this? Okay.
I'm ready.
You guys ready? Here we go. I'm going to play the first one, and then I'm going to pause it. All right.
Austin, you got a guess?
Who was that?
I'm thinking it's a large spotted creature. I'm thinking a cow.
I would go with something like a water buffalo or something like that.
Oh.
Well, this species is in the bovid family, which means it is in the cow family. Or actually, no. It's in the cervid family. This is a red deer.
Really? A deer?
Get
wow.
outta here.
It's so sonorous. I would have expected a deer to have a delicate sort of like little Bambi sort of voice.
This is our largest red deer. His name's Big Red.
Wow.
They're native to Europe, and they're one of the larger deer species. So this deer is quite large compared
there
to
we go.
your normal white-tailed deer. So
it did seem quite moose-like. It was like it's a hefty deer.
Throwing us off from the beginning.
Awesome. I love it.
Okay, here comes the next one.
Okay. Carrie, what do you got?
So are we identifying the thing we heard at the beginning, which sounded like Austin snickering? Or the second
like
one?
Snedley, like... Right, yeah.
The second one, I would guess something in the equine family.
It's the same species, just different sounds that the same animal makes.
Really? Oh, wow. That one sounded like the first part sounded like they were very amused by something.
That was, I don't know how you got a recording of me, but that was, we'll have to talk later, Noelle, because that's a privacy issue. It was good. Okay.
So was it in fact, was it a horse?
It was a horse.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And we have a couple hundred to choose from, so I could not tell you the name of that specific horse. But yes,
do some of the horses have distinct voices? I mean, is like one of them like the Gilbert Gottfried of horses, and the other one's like an Oprah Winfrey type horse, where one of them is very, smooth.
We have a Morgan Freeman.
Yes, I hope it's Bob.
Excellent.
I hope Bob is the Morgan Freeman. He's my favorite for sure.
To be honest, our staff, we have animal care staff that's dedicated to care for their specific animals. So we have equine staff, we have primate staff, and then we have wildlife staff. So they probably could tell you the difference between the different animals.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
I cannot, because I'm overseeing the whole sanctuary, so unfortunately I don't get out there enough. I need to.
I bet you the animals have conversations where they're like making fun of the staff's voices too. They're like, that one talks like such a geek.
Up next on the Horse Podcast, we listen to Carrie and Noelle, see if we can distinguish their voices. Yeah, right.
Okay, let's do number 3.
Austin?
Okay.
Not a goat, maybe a camel. Like, I don't know what camels make a sound. I have no idea.
Camels do make a sound, and I can tell you how I know that because a camel once tried to hit on me at a sanctuary in Australia, and it was It was very vocal about its intentions.
No.
They make a sound, but I don't think that was a camel sound. I thought I heard a little tigerishness at the beginning there, and then some sort of moose-like noises that sound like me when I'm needing coffee.
Nope, Carrie was right. That was Loki or tiger.
Loki.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there was a little sort of purry, roary
good.
thing going on at the beginning.
And while, tigers don't actually purr, you did hear that kind of throaty sound, but he was doing his moan as he rubbed up against the fence with one of the care staff there. So they rub their faces on things just like house cats do. And then that last sound at the end was a chuff. And that's their passive sound that they make to other tigers to say, all good here. I'm not a threat to you. So they will chuff at us.
So they don't purr, though. That's
interesting.
I didn't realize that tigers don't purr. Like, what are the other sort of distinctions between the sort of like things we're used to hearing from our own house cats versus tigers? Are there a huger range of the kind of vocalizations they make?
The sounds usually are completely different. That moaning sound, I've had, some house cats kind of do that when they're rubbing up against something, but the chuff is unique to tigers. Other cats, large cats do purr, like mountain lions, cougars, they purr, and it's definitely a deeper purr. But I don't believe lions purr either.
Interesting.
So. Huh. Well, Noelle, I think we got room for one more at least.
Yep. I think we have two. So we'll do this one. All right. And if you don't know that one, we need to talk.
Yeah, that's me after a run. That's a donkey for sure. Yeah.
That would be my guess too.
That's a donkey.
All right, good. Thank God.
Okay, one more. And this one is definitely unique to the sanctuary. If you ever come to visit, you have heard this sound before.
Oh, I want to make that my ringtone, whatever it was. That was amazing. Austin, what do you think?
Some sort of primate, I'm thinking. I don't know.
Primate or bird, like one of the two, but I'm inclined to think you're right on the primate front. Are we right?
Those were our gibbons. Yep.
Gibbons.
What a great sound.
Yep, and those were our two species of gibbons. The siamang was the louder one. They're considered the loudest land mammal. And then our white-handed gibbons had to join in too. But they make that call several times a day, and you will hear it here anytime you come to visit us.
Oh, that's so do you have staff living on the premises? I mean, are you guys able to hear these sounds sort of as you're like making your rounds during the day? Is it sort of a constant cacophony of animal noises?
Yeah, and you get so used to hearing those sounds that you totally tune them out. I'll have visitors here and they'll hear the siamangs calling and they'll say, "What is that noise?" And I haven't even heard it until they say it because you hear it so many times. And it is quite loud if you're right out in front of their habitat. In fact, I've been on the phone, walking around and had to pause and walk away because the person just cannot hear me talking. That's how loud they are.
Oh my God, that's great. We have some colleagues who are like that, so I think it's more charming when the primates do it, or when those kinds of primates do it.
And is it similar to, are the gibbons trying to say something to each other? Is there a certain language that they're trying to get across?
So the gibbons would live together in different parts of the canopy in the trees in Asia. So they're not competing, but they are calling out to say, "This is our territory." If there were any other gibbons of those species there, they would call back to say, "Hey, I'm in your neighborhood. Let me stop on by." But actually, no, it would be more to make sure that nobody's encroaching on their habitat.
So Noelle, you mentioned that your location, you said you were an hour and a half north or south of Dallas?
Southeast
of Dallas. Okay. So is there a lot around you? I mean, like what is Murchison like? Is it a big place? Is it a little place?
Murchison is
You're
about
laughing.
500 people. 500 people.
Wow.
We're about an hour from Tyler, Texas, which is a population of about 100,000. So we are quite remote. And it's actually beneficial because one, COVID has not hit us very hard here because we are so remote and so spread out. But it's tough for the staff that live here, I think, sometimes, especially if most of our staff are not local. They have come in from all over the country to work here, and they have to adjust to living not only in a rural part, but also in, Texas, which can be quite hot and humid.
Yeah, it's so in terms of the climate, like, does that present challenges in terms of managing the animals? I mean, I assume that some of the animals are sort of accustomed to a very hot climate, but others may be less so.
It's actually more of a benefit being in the
Mm.
South because it's more of a challenge to provide heat to animals that
Oh,
can't
interesting.
handle the heat. All of our animals have access to shelter 24/7, so they can get out of the sun, they can get out of the rain, the wind. But for example, our primates and our reptiles have to have heat in the winter, supplemental heat. So those species all have heated buildings that they can go into to get out of the elements and get warm. So, but the other animals, they're either native or they're from northern areas where our winters don't affect them at all. So they all have shelter, but they don't need supplemental heat.
That's great.
When it comes to folks who want to help on the ranch, are there volunteer or internship opportunities that you offer?
We do. We do have an animal care internship where usually people that have just graduated from college and they're trying to figure out what they want to be, or they're going to go back to vet school or grad school, they will come out and do an internship for 3 months. And we not only train them on how to properly care for these species, but we train them on a humane way to think about things. It's not about, again, it's not about getting them ready to be on display. It's about what do these animals truly need? How can we make their lives better? And so we offer a great training program for those reasons. We also have a veterinary intern program where a vet that has just recently graduated can come stay for a full year and work under our veterinarian and learn, again, proper medical techniques, but also humane veterinary care as well. We have a volunteer program that's normally open when we're not shut down for COVID, and we need volunteers from all different areas, not just animal care, but we need facilities interns, or not interns, volunteers that want to come out and help with repairs and maintenance. We need office volunteers that want to help us with paperwork. When we do have events, we need volunteers that help us with events, and so there's always ways to volunteer.
Yeah.
I heard that you guys have a recent, like one of your most recent arrivals is a macaque. Is like what's the circumstance that animal, is it more than one or is it just one macaque or?
Yeah, so her name is Magilla, and she is a rhesus macaque. She came to us from Baltimore where someone owned her as a pet. And from what we were told, we see this all the time. People think it's a great idea to get a wild animal as a pet. And then when that animal reaches sexual maturity, they usually will reach out to go to a new area and, leave their parents, so to speak. And that's when they become aggressive with their owner. They bite their owner. The owner gets rid of the monkey, and then somebody has to take the monkey. So we worked with the local animal control there in Maryland, and she was sent here, and now she's in our quarantine area where we'll make sure she's healthy and can't pass anything on to our other macaques, and then she will be introduced and have a family and be able to live in a half-acre wooded enclosure with other macaques. She can climb trees, forage in the grass, they can groom each other, and she can live like she should.
That's great. And by when you say have a family, you mean specifically get accustomed to a new crew, not have a family of her own, right?
Yes. Yeah, she will not have a family of her own, but she will have a troop or have others in a family unit.
How long does it take for is macaque, or I'm saying it wrong, is macaque?
Macaque.
Macaque,
Yeah,
okay.
Macaque.
So how long does it take for them to sort of go through the sort of quarantine process, and so that that they're healthy and can be reintroduced?
It depends on the individual and how much information we have. Since this animal was a pet, they usually have received very little to no vet care. So we have to draw blood, we have to do an exam, make sure that she's healthy. A lot of times we'll see nutrition issues because people don't know how to properly care for these animals. They often come in obese because they're fed human junk food or a lot of fruit. It's a stereotype that monkeys eat fruit, give them bananas. Well, yes, they would eat fruit in the wild, but wild fruit has a significantly lower amount of sugar than our overcultivated fruits do. So we see a lot of primates with diabetes and heart disease. So, we do all that blood work. We check them out, make sure they don't have any viruses. Primates can transmit viruses to each other as well as to humans. And then assuming that everything's good, then we will start an introduction period, normally about 30 days after they get here, if everything's going well.
Wow. Do you have a lot of animals coming into you as former pets?
If we had more space, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we're almost always at capacity because, you know, we take in who we can and then we have to turn them away. But yes, unfortunately, the exotic pet trade is alive and well. And, you know,
Yeah.
that's one of our missions and why we do our education program is to explain to people that tigers do not make good pets and monkeys don't make good pets. You know, you would
Yeah.
think it's common sense, but Loki, our tiger, came to us about 1.5 years ago from Houston. He was found in a abandoned house in a transport cage and been living there for God knows how long. But you could tell he had been raised around humans. He was used to people, but
Mm-hmm.
they just don't make good pets. They are so dangerous and they're wild.
Yeah.
We need to understand that they don't belong in captivity to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. It's unfortunately pretty easy to search online and buy these wild animals, but just like you said, please don't do that.
Yeah.
They do not make good pets. Yeah, that's
And we work with other organizations. We're a part of the North American Primate Sanctuary Alliance. We're part of the Big Cat Sanctuary Alliance, which is comprised of other organizations and sanctuaries that are working to try to help get these laws passed that limit exotic pet ownership, because that's the only way it's going to stop. You know, because you can just search online to find an exotic animal, and it, you know, depends on the state you live in whether or not it's legal, but unfortunately there's so little regulation and enforcement with these laws because our police are dealing with other issues.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm glad you brought that up, Noelle. I mean, one of the things that I think is really interesting about what you guys do is you guys are really dealing with the animals who are most directly impacted by some of the bigger issues that the HSUS is fighting to make sure it gets stopped. I mean, some of these animals are, you know, have been in the research industry or have come out of the exotic pet industry and all the sort of things that we're kind of working on a day-to-day basis to try and get to a point where they are causing less animal suffering. You guys see the animals who are directly impacted by that work.
Yes, and it's rewarding to be able to help those individuals, but there's so many out there that we are not, you know, we can't help.
Yeah, you had there's a how is Eve doing? Could you tell folks a little bit about Eve, because I'm not sure everybody knows her story, and I think she's such a beautiful animal.
Yeah, so Eve came to us about 1 year ago in, I think, November of last year, and she was found, gosh, 1 year before that in California. She was completely hairless. She had lost all of her hair, head to toe, because of mange, and she was found in a dumpster. And so she was transported to a rehabilitation center where they cured her of her mange. Her hair started to grow back, and they were treating her as a wild bear so that she could be released, because ultimately that's what we all want. But unfortunately, her coat, her hair follicles were damaged enough to where the coat never fully grew back. And so, you know, they were worried that she wouldn't have been successful out in the wild, wouldn't have been able to protect herself or, you know, stay warm. So they ultimately decided she needed to come to sanctuary. So she was transported here, and she has an acre of wooded land. She has a pool that she can swim in. We have tall pine trees here. And so the pine trees are probably 50 to 75 feet tall. She will climb up to the very top of those trees and just sit and just look out. I can't imagine the view up there, but and she's amazing. She's doing really, really well.
So she's no longer Eve the bear, but Eve the partially bear.
Eve the patchy bear.
Patchy
bear. That doesn't sound nearly as good. Bear sounds better.
We
Patchy
try
the
not
patch
to,
bear.
Yeah, we don't mention it in front of her. We don't want to, you know, insult her or give her a complex, but she's a little scraggly, but we think she's beautiful.
Noelle, I'm so curious. I know you always see those things online about those unlikely pairs of animals. Do you have any of that at Black Beauty?
Unfortunately, the pictures that you're probably used to seeing are from substandard facilities.
Oh, no.
It's not to say that certain animals can't be paired together, but when you see like a chimpanzee and a dog, that is not a good idea. And that just means that chimpanzee has been habituated around people. So we do not promote that kind of thing. Now, there's been instances where we've had animals come in together, usually domestic, like a donkey and a goat. And so those type of situations, if they prefer to be together, we will keep them together. But I'd say 99.9% of the time, once they see others of their own species, they're like, see ya, I'm going off.
See a goat.
Yeah. We had a goat and a pig that came in like that. And so we kept them together in a pasture that had other goats and pigs in there. And the pigs went with the pigs and the goat went with the goats. And that was it. It's like, yes, they will cohabitate when that's the only option, but they prefer to be with their own species.
Wow. There we go. Like Austin and I have this ongoing joke about this show about how we're going to spoil everything for everyone. And apparently these interspecies friendships is the latest thing we get to spoil.
The more yes. You know. Anytime you see a wild animal with a domestic animal, usually not what you think it is. It looks cute, but you just have to. In fact, the person that promotes that was just recently indicted, as a matter of fact.
Oh, good. That's there we go. Spoiling another thing.
There's your flash briefing for the day.
Yes.
Noelle, thank you so much. Is there any last words or final statements? This has been such a fun episode to chat with you.
Yeah, this is awesome. I really appreciate this time. We have an Amazon wish list. If anybody would like to go online, search for Cleveland Amory Black Beauty Ranch and get the animals some treats, especially with the holidays coming up. We would love to share them. And we, follow our social media page on Facebook and Instagram, and you can see a lot of our animals as well too.
I love that. I want to see some of the treats, some of the animals eating their treats at the holidays.
Yeah. All right. Noelle, thank you so much. Noelle Almrud, director of the Cleveland Amory Black Beauty Ranch. Thank you so much for sitting down again and chatting with us. That's all we have for today's show. To find out more info on this amazing sanctuary, you know where to find us, humanesociety.org, and just search through there, or Cleveland Amory Black Beauty Ranch will give you more information. You heard it there. They have an Amazon wish list, and it would be great to support such a great cause during the holidays around that time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Humane Voices.
Thanks, everybody.